Hello and welcome to the Hold the Line Sports Betting Podcast. We are on week 10 of the college football season. Getting kind of close to the home stretch here, fellas, and I am no closer to having this year figured out than I was back in August. Pick a conference, ACC, four-team race, three undefeateds, none of which are going to play each other before the end of the year, before ACC championship play. Big 12, two undefeateds, and a dangerous Kansas State team not to be slept on. Big 10, three undefeateds, kind of a powerhouse. And then Ohio State is in fourth, and they're fourth in the freaking nation. Um, SEC goes without saying. A lot still to be decided. Doesn't even include the group of five teams. We got a couple sleepers there that I think might make some noise. Today is going to be a little special as we're going to put our committee hats on and give some predictions for our 12-team playoff bracket. We'll put a little something together for us. We all kind of put our hat in the ring, and we each have individual plays for this, but we'll present that later on in the segment. But first, we'll take it back a week. We'll recap some Week 9 football. Sound good to you guys?
Sounds good.
And Bo,
All right, Brandon, let's start with the games of the week from last week.
games of the week last week. We started off Texas and Vandy. Tight fought ball game there. Texas won a close one. Shout out to the Vandy boys for keeping college football and the SEC very interesting from pretty much top to bottom. Final score of that game was 27-24. We move over to the independent life of college football. Notre Dame at Navy. You know, a lot of people had a lot of buzz around Army, Navy, these guys. I think this is a welcome to the big boy type of game for these Army Navy teams. Um, question's still out on Army. They're a good football team. Navy still, I would say, is a good football team. Score though, Notre Dame said we're not having none of that. 51-14 Notre Dame.
Yeah, those lights were bright.
Very bright. And then we hop on over to probably it was the most important game in the SEC last week, Week 9, LSU at Texas A&M. Surprising victory with a scary performance, I would say. It's the best word I could come up with, and it is almost Halloween, so spooky performance from Texas A&M. They won 38-23 over a good LSU team. Just top to bottom, I think they impressed a lot of people, and it was at home for them, so that helps them out a lot. But I think Texas A&M is a lot more dominant than we give them credit for. I think they've come a long way since that Week 1 loss against Notre Dame. I think they're a much better football team now, and they've found some identity. So I think they will use that to their strength moving forward.
So, I had a special request from Nathan earlier. He wanted to recap these quickly so we could spend some time on our playoff predictions. It's fair. But if I'm compelled to speak, I will do so. So I'm not going to let you rush me if I don't feel the need. All right. But we will try to be brief. Let's start with Texas at Vandy. Um, Brandon, go ahead. Start us off. Just kind of some thoughts on this game. We'll all have a little something on this one.
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword to me, being quote unquote the SEC expert, because Vandy's not supposed to be good, but they've had some surprising wins. Obviously the win against Alabama. They've had a better season, much better season than we've predicted them to have, and that's credit to transfer portal stuff like that. Pavia, dog, we all know this. But this is a Texas team who's supposed to be the upper echelon of college football, like top five. They were number one um, just a couple weeks ago. So they're coming off a loss from Georgia, a pretty bad loss, I would say too. And they looked unprepared. They looked like they just lacked talent at all positions. I don't know if that's just shout out Georgia, but this is a team where you could had a very clear bounce back game and had a very decisive win over a Vandy team who you're obviously top to bottom, much more talented than. And I think it's a bad look for Texas, even though they won the game. They should have beat Vandy by a lot more. Shout out Vandy though for keeping it close. I think they are. I mean, it's tough to say they're good because they were ranked. I would say they're a good football team. They're going to beat a lot of teams out there, but I think Texas should have beat them by a lot more. I mean, that's just it is what it is. They're a more talented football team, top to bottom. Quinn Ewers still a guy, still a dog. But I can't get a read. This is why the SEC is so hard because you got Vandy who's supposed to suck, and then you got Texas who's supposed to be the best team ever, and they only win by 3 points. And Vanderbilt had many opportunities in this game to win it. I mean, they had turnovers, they had takeaways. It's just, ball falls their way a little bit more. They win this game, and they make a ton of buzz in college football. So, I don't know. What did you guys think after this one?
So, all right. First of all, I don't know if I'm going to have another opportunity to say this, but the fact that Missouri remains ranked and Vandy got
True.
kicked from the top 25 after losing by 3 to Texas is utter madness.
True.
It's a disgrace. I can't stand the AP committee. I don't know what they're doing there. Missouri's not in my top 50, let alone top 25. I don't think Vandy should have been punished for that loss, especially considering how they performed. I think they were a little bit behind the eight ball for the most part. I think you could kind of tell that Texas was the more talented team. Like you kind of put them together on that playing field. You can kind of see who the better team was, but the fact that they stayed in it regardless, like that's been a scrappy team. Like they're a plucky bunch, and they've been that way the entire year, regardless of the opponent that they faced. You take that. I think the thing that really hurts them is like Vandy has that loss to Georgia State, and I think if you take that away, there's really not a stain on their record, and they're a legitimate top 25 team. But I think that Georgia State loss is gonna haunt them for the rest of the year. They're gonna have to win out if they want to see themselves in the rankings. But bowl eligible is, I mean, how many wins do they have now? Five or
They got
six?
5.
Fine.
So one more win, bowl eligible. I mean, I deem that a success if I'm Vanderbilt, and I think they got a shot to be ranked again before the end of the year. I was happy for the competitive nature of that game, and I'm proud of Vandy for the way they played.
It's awesome, too, because Vegas had Vandy's win total for the season at 2.5, which I would have took the over. I did take the over anyway because obviously I predicted them to win against Georgia State, against um, they played some more bad teams early in the year. But to see them at 5 wins now is like, holy crap. So, like I said, double-edged sword, bad look for Texas, even though they won. Good look for Vandy, even though they lost. So, I don't. This is why the SEC is so hard to predict, let alone bet on.
Yeah, I feel like Texas is like a little bit exposed now. The same thing kind of happened to Alabama. Like you're thinking juggernaut, and then they obviously beat Georgia. It's tightly contested, but we all thought it would be. And then they come out the next week, and Vandy gives them a lot of trouble. And so now you kind of see like the chinks in the armor. And I don't think Texas. I don't think the chinks in the armor were exposed, but I think these last 2 weeks have kind of. I'm a lot lower on them than I used to be based off their
Right.
last 2 weeks.
I think we need to like in the SEC. I think you have to judge teams now off their consistency. I think Vandy is top 5 in the SEC in being a consistent football team.
Yep.
I think like you said, Texas and Alabama get exposed because I don't know if they can play at the elite level week in and week out.
Yep.
Just I'd never say they have bad talent. They're the most talented teams, top to bottom. They can hang with anybody, but the consistent level of play you have to bring to have success in the NCAA, let alone the SEC. Some teams just don't have that, and they get exposed, and that's why it's absolute madness this time of
Yep.
year.
Nate, Will?
Yeah, I'll go ahead real quick. And I don't know if this is like a good thing or if it's concerning. Texas's offense was unbelievable in this game. If I'm not mistaken, Quinn Ewers had a unbelievable game offensively, especially throwing the ball. And this was a 27-24 ball game. So like I don't know what happened there, but the fact that they did not put up 30 plus is kind of concerning. That just means they couldn't finish a lot of the drives later in the
Yeah,
game,
red
from what I
zone
saw.
issues.
Yeah.
Turnovers.
And then
Texas was very sloppy as well. A lot of penalties. They had like 110 yards worth of penalties. Um, but also, as you said, Ewers threw the ball well. Um, and he had a tipped pass get intercepted, and then proceeded to throw 17 straight completions right after that. So he kind of locked in. So yeah, I think Texas will be fine because they played sloppy, but which is something they got to fix, which they don't do often. But yeah.
All right, we good on this one?
Yep.
All right, let's move on. See, that was pretty brief, Nate. Pretty good job, huh? We'll go to Notre Dame and Navy. Will, go ahead, start us off.
Notre Dame was too big and too strong for Navy. It was not America's stiff arm. 6 turnovers for Notre Dame, or not Notre Dame, Navy, which is ridiculous.
They
And when you
fumbled
think,
7 times.
yeah, when you think of a ton of turnovers, you think, oh, someone threw 4 picks. No, it was fumbles.
Yeah.
They fumbled 7 times and lost 5 of them, so it could have been more. Yeah, I had Navy plus 13. I was a believer. I was for the troops. But yeah, Notre Dame, it was just too big and too strong. They were able to run the ball, basically do whatever they wanted, and the Navy couldn't do anything on offense because they were too busy giving it to the other team. So
And I've been watching a ton of Notre Dame. I told you guys last week, watching them beat up on my ACC guys, and I've been watching Riley Leonard get better every week. Honestly, like he's just improved. He keeps improving. I think he's pretty dangerous. Um, Notre Dame's legit. I think they're a legitimately good team. I think they got to win out if they want to be in the playoff. We'll go into that later. I don't know if they will. On the other side of it, I think I'm happy Navy had, I'm gonna call it like their 15 minutes of fame, but the lights are simply too bright for Navy. They were not ready to handle an opponent of that caliber. I think they're a fine football team, but there's levels to this, and I just don't think they're on the Notre Dame level. Just kind of simply overpowered in my eyes.
Yeah, I took the over on this game. Like I said, I don't know what the score was going to be. I just knew there was going to be a lot of points one way or the other.
Well, you
Um,
said that I think you said Navy could get like 17 or something, and then Notre Dame would
y-
get the rest.
yeah,
Notre
roughly.
Dame got the rest.
Yeah, the thing with me is you see Navy now that they're in the AAC, like defenses don't adjust there. Like you can kind of do the same thing every game, get good results, whatever. But when you start playing these bigger teams, like say Navy was up at halftime or whatever, they're not scoring that second half. Like Notre Dame knew what to prepare for and they executed the plan. Um, and I'll be honest with you, after watching this game, like this is a little off script, but like I think Army is a much better team than Navy, and I still don't even know if they can compete with Notre Dame. Like, and that's just how like it comes to preparing for those style of offenses. Like it's not just a regular option like Vandy runs, like that can get difficult. This is just a simple, you got 3 choices and they're all handoffs. Like here,
Yeah,
here, here. Like it's you're not expecting a pass, whereas like
yeah,
Pavia would pull it and dump it. These guys,
sure.
no.
I will say too, Navy's offensive coordinator is from Kennesaw State.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just leave that there.
No, I mean they're a gross team, but like in their own area, like in their own conference.
Brandon?
I mean, it just comes down to like Will said. I mean, there's just guys don't go to Navy to prioritize football. Guys go to Notre Dame, and football is everything.
Yep.
So if you go to Navy, you might play football, but you're also going to the Navy. So that doesn't really, going to the Navy doesn't constitute elite football players, which is fine because I would rather have like an elite soldier in the Navy than like an elite football player. So,
Sure.
you know, you give and
We
take,
breed
but
those.
you're just gonna like anytime Army, Navy, any of those guys play a top 25 school, there's gonna be a very clear difference in talent. And I wouldn't say like brute strength or speed or anything like that, but I mean just straight football talent. I mean, it's it is what it is. And I would say like the Navy and the Armies and them, they're going to be like the most disciplined football teams you're going to have. Like guys are going to do their jobs. They're going to be in their spots. They're not going to miss assignments. None of that. But when it just comes down to like who's better at playing football, who does this day in day out football wise, it's going to be the big boys. So I mean, you saw it here. Like Nate said, they're a good team in their own realm. They're just not going to be able to hang.
Yeah. All right, last one. I figured we'd probably be done with that one. Let's go to LSU at Texas A&M. Nate, start us off.
Yeah, and I'll kind of keep this short because I'm sure y'all have a little bit more in-depth thoughts about this. But if I'm not mistaken, I said Texas A&M's defense will win this game. They'll get a few extra stops at the end. That's exactly what happened. And who is it? Marcel Reed? Is that his name?
Mhm.
I mean, dude just ran all over LSU's defense. And now I'll have some thoughts on that later on about Bama playing them, but LSU does not look like they've improved on that run defense throughout the year. And that's kind of, that scares me a little bit. Or it should scare them a little bit. But at the end of the day, A&M just had a really good defense, and LSU couldn't score. Simple as that. They couldn't score when it mattered.
I mean, LSU, obviously, they played well in the first half. I think what it was is they didn't prepare for Marcel Reed to come in, and the defense wasn't able to keep up. Marcel Reed threw 2 passes.
Yep.
2.
For 70
Yeah.
yards, though.
Yes, both of them were dimes.
And that's even more embarrassing for LSU.
But also, I think A&M just has this little system that they do. They start one guy for like 2 games. He plays well in the first 2, then sucks. Backup comes in, plays well for about 2 games, then starts to suck. Then the previous starter comes back in, plays well for 2 games, starts to suck. And it's just kind of a revolving cycle. And it works for them because they're winning the SEC right now. So I think that's what's going to happen and ultimately going to lead them to a national championship.
Well, also real quick, they play the quarterback to the other team's weakness. Like Marcel Reed is not going to beat Georgia on the ground. But LSU, we all know, has a really bad defense, and Marcel Reed is more useful in his legs than Wickman. So, like, I feel like it's more of a game plan rather than he sucks, he's good.
So you guys are like kind of working around like the exact thing that I wrote down. So keep it as simple as possible for me. I watched a really good coach at Texas A&M go through the first half, figure out what he needed to do, and push every right button in terms of second half adjustments that he needed to push. And they all worked perfectly. 'Cause like the other part of it is like momentum's like a really fickle thing. Like, it's great when you have it, but it can shift so easily. And I'll be honest with you, I really think LSU was like one score away from really taking hold of that game and taking momentum. I think it was a fumble or a pick on their own side of the field. It
I
was a
think it's a
drive
pick,
early in the
yep.
third quarter, I
It
think.
was a pick, yeah.
Resulted in a touchdown for A&M, and like that switched momentum. But from then on, you could see a really good coach, total second half adjustment, totally different game plan, totally new personnel, and he realized this is exactly what we need to take care of these guys, and he implemented all of it, and it worked perfectly. They outscored LSU 31-6 in the second half.
Well, like to your exact point, like we saw that same thing week 1 on in the Georgia Clemson game. I mean, both teams kind of similarly matched in talent level, and
Yep.
like in week 1 in that game, Clemson came out and totally ran something that they have never done before, and you just kind of got to hang around, and then second half comes, you make adjustments, and you expose the other team. So. I
100%.
think you're totally right about the momentum. Nussmeier, he had a lot of yards, but he had 3 picks in the game.
Yep.
So, I mean, when you turn the ball over 3 times on picks, it's tough to stay in it. Your defense is on the field way more than they're used to being, especially with a high-powered offense like that. And I
I
think,
know at least 2 were in the second half. Were all 3 in the second half?
I think just 2.
yeah, I think
Okay.
just 2. But I mean, like you were saying, it was what 17 to what, and 17 to 0 in the first half, wasn't it?
I think it was
They
17-7.
17-7.
And
Yep.
then, I mean, like you said, Marcel Reed. I think Texas A&M is trying their best because he's a freshman to not put too much weight onto him just yet and not hand over the reins completely. But I think moving forward, you got to stick with the guy. I mean,
I
he
mean,
showed
yeah,
up when the lights were brightest. He took over the game, and he ultimately led that team to a victory. And I think for whatever reason, and you can see this before in some teams, like, go back to the Jalen Hurts and Tua days. And I mean, that might be a bad example, but some guys just play better or have more intensity when there's a certain quarterback back there. And I don't know if it's like I think Weigman's a good guy, like a good quarterback. He's serviceable, but I think Marcel Reed just gives the whole team that extra juice to keep that momentum on their side. Like, okay, nothing's open. Let me break this off for another big run play. It's like, okay, this guy's kind of hyping me up over here. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's got the juice. So I think he brings that aspect of like a multi-dynamic offense to the table, whereas Weigman is more so just spread it out, throw it around, and that's easy to play defense against really. So
It just
yep,
opens up everything because it adds an element to the offense that when Weigman's out there, it's not. Weigman's
right,
not a threat to run the ball. Marcel Reed that's his biggest threat. Um,
yeah,
right,
but another thing too, I saw Stephen A. say that Texas A&M, and this was not not a while ago. This was recently after this game. He said that Texas A&M made a mistake hiring Elko and should have hired Deion Sanders. I don't know why. Elko has Texas A&M at what 8-1 and leading the SEC.
yeah. Elko has a great track record to it too.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That's a
don't
good
know
coach,
why.
y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
he Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard was like a basketball player before he went to Duke, and Elko basically turned him into, you know, a quarterback that could have a Heisman campaign. So
Yep.
People
I
forget
mean,
Elko was also there back when A&M was really good defensively. Like he was recruiting highly for that school.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
been there before, and not. This isn't even a slight on Dion. I think Dion's fine. It's just like this guy is and it's not even like this is his 5th year there. It's his 1st year, and he's doing this.
right,
Yep. Yeah, it's supposed to take time. You get
Yeah,
2 to 3 years, and he's already having an impact immediately. He's having an impact in game. Like you can just tell with how he manages the game. He's got a great feel for, what his players need, who needs to come in, who would excel in this situation. He's got great feel for it. Anything else on this one?
nope.
Let's switch gears. We're going to the toilet bowl, fellas. Um, Georgia State at App State. I'm sure everyone tuned in. Will, did you
no,
watch?
I
Brandon?
did
No, you
not
didn't
this
watch?
week.
Nate,
not
you
at
didn't
all.
watch? I didn't watch either. I had it on the GameCast for a little bit. Apparently, App State won 33 to 26.
Should not
Um,
have.
yeah, I think Georgia State started off pretty. They had like a safety in the first quarter, I think, and like or had
Wasn't
a
it like two?
stranglehold on the App State offense for a minute.
Yeah, it was 3-2. I sent you all a screenshot saying this is the best toilet bowl score we've had
This is a
all
hockey
year.
game.
But yeah, Georgia State
Um,
should have won that game at plus 220. That was great value, and they
yeah.
arguably should have won.
I got a couple notes. It took a full half of football, but once that second half came, the over kind of or the under it kind of became a sweat, Brandon, after the first half. It was like it was looking easy at first, and then they both started kind of moving the ball. App State's QB threw 3 touchdowns. I actually think Georgia State ran the ball pretty well, so like both offenses were kind of doing their thing. Um, so I had -7, so I pushed. I think two of y'all had the Georgia State upset,
Yeah,
I had
I
the
had money
Georgia
line.
State upset.
and then Nate, what'd you have?
I had -7 also.
Okay, so we both pushed on that. So tough break. Tough break. They could have won that game. I like based off that first half. I really think they had a chance, but App State just a little too strong. Quarterback play just a little too good. Um, I have watched both of them play one game. Georgia State played Georgia Tech, and I actually thought they kind of like battled. So that's why I was like, when y'all said Georgia State, I was like, well, yeah, they kind of pushed Georgia Tech for, a first half, and then they did it again. They pushed App State for one half, and I think that's all they got in them. I don't think they have enough depth.
It's because it wasn't at Turner Field.
True,
Facts.
that's a
Why?
game breaker. Yeah, that's a difference maker. All right, let's go individual plays. Start with Nate in the Big 12. I'm sure we got another 3-0 week to talk about. Nate, go ahead and get started.
Yeah, so I actually went 3-0
Okay.
over the weekend.
That's all we
Um,
need.
Great
Move on.
job. Will, go ahead. Just kidding.
I'll keep it fast for y'all though. Colorado versus Cincy, I had over 56.5. That did hit. I thought that'd be a high scoring game. Two good offenses, some shaky defensive play. That hit pretty easy.
I bet it
BYU
did.
BYU money line versus UCF. That was my plus money play of the week. Do not know how that was plus money, but it was plus
I don't
120.
either.
Um, and y'all hear me say it again in the next segment, but UCF is a bad football team right now. I don't even know how they scored that much on BYU, but
I think they
BYU went out
fired their
there.
DC.
Yeah, they
Or
fired
they maybe
somebody.
relinquished play calling duties for the DC. I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, it was they needed to do something. But yeah, so BYU went down there, did their thing, kept their offense going and won. So I hit that, and then I had Texas Tech plus 6.5 versus TCU. I figured this was going to be pretty much an offensive game, not much defense at all. That's kind of the story of both these team seasons. So TCU won that game 35-34. So that definitely hit for me.
Great job, Nate. Another stellar week of play for you. Will, go ahead and do the Big Ten.
We're back. 2-1. Mr. Consistency is finally back.
That makes you inconsistent.
I was consistent for the first 7 weeks and then had 2 bad weeks. We're fine. Penn State, lock of the week, minus 6.5. You know, there was some adversity. Drew Aller goes out in the first half. But then after that, backup quarterback comes in, gets the job done, won 28-13. 6.5 was such a low spread for that. Penn State's a really good football team. Plus money play. Maryland money line versus Minnesota. I showed y'all before we started recording. Maryland is suspended on our thing.
Yep.
I've missed 5 straight picks when betting on them or on their game in general because I have them to beat Northwestern. They lose 37-10. I'm like, okay, so they're bad. I have USC to cover. They go and beat USC. So I'm like, okay, so they're solid. Then I'm like, okay, they can beat a not so great Minnesota team and get absolutely destroyed.
They did.
So yeah, they're suspended. They have a bye this week, so they're suspended 1 game. So yeah, you won't get a pick from me in week 10 or week 11 for them. Yeah, they're done. Then Michigan State under 17.5 versus Michigan. It was a sweat. They scored 17, but it hit. Yeah, that's all I got, really.
All right. So I'm not back. I left. 0-3 this week. Start with Syracuse at Pitt. You're gonna see a theme here with how some of these games went. This first one's on me. Okay, I didn't do a deep enough dive. I watched the game and I was just like flabbergasted
I don't think
at
a
how
deep
this.
dive would have saved you from this.
Well, so hold on. I could have predicted something. Um, so I was like, I had some time, and I was like, okay, why on earth is Syracuse? Why do they play this bad? Like Kyle McCord, 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes in one game is like that's like made up. I don't even know if I've ever seen that before. He sacked himself to end his final drive, like he just fell on the ground. And I was just watching, and I'm like, they just looked so slow, like so much slower than Pitt, and I'm like. Well, they had a bye week. Like, what's going on here? And I found out that's the problem. They had a bye week. So they've had 3 bad games this year, and they all came after long layoffs. First game of the season versus Ohio, they were down 17-0 to start that game. They were playing Ohio, so they came back and won. So you know what? You kind of take that with a grain of salt. Bye week, they play Stanford, who we know is the worst team in the ACC. They lose to Stanford, and I'm like, How'd that happen? Oh, it was a bye week. Bye week. They play Pitt, throw 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, and lose by 30. So if Syracuse has a bye week, they're garbage. So just take that play every time. We'll know that going forward, but we learned. I had the over anyways, which didn't hit because they couldn't score any freaking points. It was actually closer than I thought. I think it was 60 and or 61 and a half. They scored 55 points total, so it was close. But the way the game played out was just not even remotely what I would have picked. Number two, Wake at Stanford. This was my plus money play. I had Stanford winning this one. Actually, very competitive and surprisingly an enjoyable game to watch. They Stanford brought Ashton Daniels back in to play quarterback, I mean, he's still not great, but he has another dynamic to his game that makes him a lot more enjoyable to watch compared to the other jabronis that they put in from time to time. Lamson and that freshman he's fearful. That boy's scared of football. Ashton Daniels is he's watchable though. Problem is Wake's a little bit better at winning close games. They've been playing close games all year, and they've kind of got a knack for it. They did the same thing against NC State when they beat them by 4. So they lost by 3, 27-24. Competitive though, that one could have gone either way, and it was down to the wire. So I'll take the L. It was a good football game, and worth a plus money play. I'm not going to call that one a bad bet. Number 3, SMU at Duke. Holy cow, dude! This one, I'm furious about this. This game was madness. That's the word of the day for this past weekend. It's madness. SMU turned this ball over 6 times in one game and won the game by 1 point. So you would think, what, Duke turned the ball over 5 times? No, they turned the ball over 0 times. SMU lost the turnover battle 6-0 and won in overtime 28-27.
That's crazy.
They should have lost. They should have lost the game. So I had SMU to cover. If they had turned the ball over half that amount of times and only had a regular bad game, they easily would have done that because Duke wasn't doing that much if SMU didn't give them the football. But they did it half a dozen times. So SMU won by 1. The cover was 11.5. They easily would have done that if they didn't play the absolute worst game of football I have seen. Also, Kevin Jennings hurt his knee. Not sure if he's going to play this coming weekend. They say 50-50, but I think he's leaning towards playing. They gave another update just in case you want to use that in your diagnostic for later on when we talk about our Week 10 preview. He should play, though, just so you guys know. I think that's it. I'm good. Brandon, over to you.
How'd they lose by 1 in overtime? Did they go for 2?
No,
Or they
Duke
won
went
by
for 2.
Duke
went for 2.
Oh,
Duke
okay,
went for
okay.
2.
It's like
And
the
they
math
didn't get
wasn't
it.
mathing for me. It was
Yeah. So it was 21-21. SMU scored, kicked the field goal, make it 28. Duke scored a touchdown, and they went for 2 to try and win it, and they failed. So SMU won by 1.
Well, another week, another bad week in the SEC. We went 0 for 3. We'll just go ahead and start it off with what at the time was a good pick, but now it kind of looks like a really bad pick. We had Kentucky minus 2.5 against Auburn. Auburn actually won the game 24-10. I don't know what is wrong with Brock
wild one.
Vandegrift.
That's a wild one.
My man Vandegrift is struggling, dude. They had another game where they just could not throw the ball, and they couldn't run the ball. They had no offense going at all. And Auburn's defense hasn't even shown that they can keep them in ball games. So I just don't understand. This game was at Kentucky as well. It's just like they pick and choose. Okay, we're going to play good for this one. We're not going to play good for this one. Kentucky only 70 rushing yards total for the whole game, and only 154 passing yards as well. Both quarterbacks, they threw the backup in there for a little bit. Both of them threw a pick. I just don't understand.
I think
Peyton
Auburn
Thorne,
took care of the ball too.
they did. I mean, Peyton Thorne
Yeah.
had 1 interception, but he's
That's
going
good.
to have 1 a game. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
He actually went 20 for 26, 172 with a touchdown. But I don't know if Ashton Genty changed his number and just transferred to Auburn halfway through the year. But Jaquez Hunter, 278 yards on the ground by himself.
Sweet God.
So I don't understand. They had 328 rushing yards as a team. Anytime you do that, you're probably going to win the ball game. Usually Kentucky's defense is pretty solid. They got a big defensive line, good linebacker core. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I think Will's throwing out suspensions. I might do the same for Kentucky. It's just like they are too unpredictable to bet on.
Throwing out suspensions.
We're gonna jump over to another awful football team. See, I say awful, but this is like as I rank the teams as SEC standard most of the time, and in that standard, Missouri trash, terrible football team. Brady Cook very hurt, didn't practice all week. Usually, they were going on in the booth talking about how Missouri's coach doesn't ever let guys play if they don't practice. This is like the first time he's ever let a guy play and he hasn't practiced. Well, he should have never played, one. And they need to find some more depth at the quarterback position because Drew Pine, the guy that played most of the game, sucks. 42 yards in the air, 3 interceptions. Probably the worst quarterback play Alabama's going to see all year. They took advantage of it. Alabama wins the game 34-0 at Alabama. Missouri way too overhyped at the beginning of the season. Even if Brady Cook's healthy, still overhyped. Easiest schedule in college football pretty much. And they're sitting 6-2. And I mean, if they play like that, they're going to finish a solid 6-4, 6-5, whatever it is. So not looking good for them. And we are going to jump over to another loss as I went 0-3. And this should have been a good bet too. Ole Miss, they're looking to make some noise. They got 2 bad losses. They still got a bunch of good teams they could play, so they could have a good, case come committee time. And they go out against an Oklahoma team who's been proven to be bad and not do anything well. They have no identity. They keep switching back and forth. They had Jackson Arnold play in this game, which I don't understand because, season's already pretty much chalked. Might as well ride with the freshman and just let him get some time. Why not? But they ride with Jackson Arnold. I had Oklahoma. This was Ole Miss minus 21. It was plus money because I needed a plus money play, and I thought that was a smart plus money. Like 3 touchdowns for a push against a bad Oklahoma team, and you're supposed to be one of the best offenses in the SEC. And to only win by 12 is kind of concerning. I think they might be a little overhyped. But nonetheless, I mean, Jackson Dart still played well. 22 for 30, 311 yards. I think they were just one-dimensional. I mean, they couldn't run the football. They only had 69 yards on the ground. So when you only have one type of play, it's either pass or run. You're not running RPOs, you're just passing the ball. It gets pretty easy to call defensive plays. You just drop 8 guys into coverage. It makes it tough. So shout out Jackson Dart for still getting yards, getting completions, doing what he needs to do. But I think for them to have a good case when they play these worse SEC teams that you should beat by a lot, you have to beat them by a lot just to say we handled our business against the bad teams and we upset some really big teams. Their case isn't looking very good. I think I'm just ranting a little bit because they cost me a loss. But still, in the grand scheme of things, you got to beat Oklahoma by a lot of points. You can't just win by 12. They're terrible. You're supposed to be good. Come on.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. Just going back to Brady Cook, because I don't know if y'all saw this or watched the game. I don't know what's up with my man. He played with a hurt foot, then he hurt his throwing hand twice on a guy's helmet.
Yeah.
So,
phone it in.
Dude might be cooked for the season.
Yeah, he might be. And we're gonna get into the standings, right now. I want the listeners to understand something. Okay, I've never been wrong with the prediction. Okay, there's all the data, all the points. Data points are correct. None of this is wrong. The problem is the kids screw it up. Okay,
Facts.
you got kids that go out there and they're unreliable.
Meddling kids.
I am batting 1,000 on all of these. They're all correct, but the kids, you can't count on them every week. They're gonna let you down. So just know when you look at these standings, it's not me. It's the college kids.
I'm
Okay.
just curious. So why were the NFL picks this week not that great? Those aren't kids.
Um, we're not here to we're not here to talk about them.
This is
We're
the
not
college
here.
football
We're
podcast.
talking about the college. That's on Friday. Don't speak into that.
The Big 12 was built off of responsibility with the kids.
That's gotta be. All right, I'm going to the share. Do I click screen? Was it screen or
Yes,
presentation? What?
yeah, screen.
Yeah. All right, cool. Untie. Yep, we got the spreadsheet. You guys see this?
I gotta enlarge it.
Is it like an eye chart? Is it tough to see?
No, that's fine.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is the scoreboard updated after week 9. You can see, I'm just going to go straight to the bottom here, fellas, because this is the crazy part. All right, we are all, except for Nate, we are tied 33, 29, and 1. Nate has built a sizable margin of a lead at 38, 24, and 1. So we have some catching up to do, but also let it be known, even though the kids screw it up sometimes, we have all won you money if you followed us. So I want that to be, we need to let that be known as well. So even though the kids aren't perfect, they're still winning you some coin. But that's the standing so far, keeping track of it every week. Give myself a little consolation prize. I'm not in last place on games of the week, so I love that for myself. And I'm not in last place on the toilet bowl. Nate, this 20-9 here is just, I'm actually about to change it.
Seven of those 9 losses are from the AAC.
I
See,
know,
what would
once you
Nate?
switch to Big 12,
Yeah, what would he be if he was still in his other conference?
Floating about 500.
yeah, human like the rest of us. All right, so that's that. You guys ready? You guys ready to do this? We're gonna go to the playoff predictor.
Do you
We
want to
gotta
do the
do-
dog player?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Let's go team of the week, dog of the week, disappointment of the week, and then we'll do the playoff predictor. Team of the week. I'll go ahead and start. And then whoever wants to go next. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. Team of the week. Syracuse kind of handed it to them on a silver platter, but the defense came to play. They wanted the ball. It was kind of a statement win for a team that a lot of people say is overhyped and a little overrated, and they keep proving people wrong. So, team of the week is Pittsburgh for me.
I'll go ahead. I'm just gonna go Texas A&M for team of the week. Don't really have to say much about that. We've already discussed it, but they're legit.
They had the biggest statement win of the week, I think.
Oh yeah. My team of the week. It's got to be my alma mater, Kennesaw State. Who gives a hoot? The Owls do. Getting their first win in FBS history against an undefeated Liberty team at home. Fans rush the field, have to get off the field, rush the field again. It's just
Dealt
heart.
with the adversity.
It's just heart. KSU, baby.
My
Did
team of the
Liberty
week?
end up losing to, hold on, did Liberty end up losing to Jacksonville State?
I honestly have not
Yeah, they
watched.
did. So yeah. The win's not as great anymore because now
They
Liberty's
were
lost 2 in a
undefeated
row.
at the time. It's
I guess you're right.
okay.
I don't know. I'm just saying it's not as impressive as a win anymore. It's not going to
It's a
help them in the
win.
college
It's
playoff.
one more
Real
than we
quick.
expected.
This is 2 weeks in a row. Liberty was supposed to be in Chapel.
They can't. Yeah, man, they cannot play on Wednesday. They can't do it.
Mhm.
They're screwing themselves. Brandon, go ahead.
My team of the week, because I heard all off season, all the time leading up to the season, how bad they were going to be, how they're going to be fraudulent, how they're not going to cover their season win total, and now they are ranked 23rd in the country. The Colorado Buffaloes. Bowl eligible already, easy schedule ahead, could be an 8-win team. The Colorado Buffs are a train that is just keep on rolling every single week, and it cannot be denied anymore that they got the talent, they got the team to do it. They just got to win some big games, and they could make some noise later on down the stretch.
The future play on the win total was automatic. That thing was
I
free.
tried to tell you guys, tried to tell you. They still got to play Baylor. They still got to play a bad Oklahoma State team. They should have beat Kansas State. They could easily be Like they could already have like 7 wins right now if they just didn't sell against Kansas
Yep.
State.
All right, let's go same order. I'll go dog of the week. For me, it is Fernando Mendoza. This guy doesn't get enough play, not enough screen time because he plays for California. So that's California's quarterback. For those of you who don't know, clinical performance, 364 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught a lateral on a broken play for a touchdown as well. That was actually kind of fire. Leads Cal to a win versus Oregon State, 44-7. Fernando Mendoza, dog of the week.
Yep. So I'm going to go with Jarquez Hunter from Auburn. He had 23 carries for 278 yards. Real quick, what I don't understand is this man could be one of the best running backs, if not the best in the SEC, but they refuse to use him every single game. He'll break open some runs, they'll shut it back down and let Peyton Thorne throw. They finally let him do his thing, and you see what happens against a decent defense. But yeah, he showed out this game, and I expect him to use him a little bit more going forward.
Nice.
It was the same story with Tank Bigsby as well last year, or not last year, like when
Year
he
before.
was there.
Mhm.
When he was there, they would let him run the ball. He'd break off 50 yards, then they try to throw a pick in the end zone, and call it a day. But yeah, my dog of the week is Quinn Ewers. Anytime you complete 17 passes in a row, kind of has to be you. He was taking a page out of Graham Mertz's book that one game that he went like 18-20. Super good completion percentage. And honestly, he's kind of the reason they won the game. They played so sloppy, but he was the only one not to. So, yeah, Quinn Ewers.
My dog of the week. I've been talking about him every now and then. And he doesn't get enough screen time because he plays for Arkansas. Taylon Green. They played Mississippi State. I know they're not a great team, but dude had 314 passing yards, 79 rushing yards, and 5 total touchdowns.
That'll
Heck
play.
of a day for the kid. And I really do think we will be seeing him play on Sundays for a while. He gives
All right.
me like a Cam Newton
Whoa.
type vibe. Yeah.
That fella's pretty good at football now.
I know. I'm
He
telling you,
was.
he's big. He can run. He can sling it. And I'm telling you, Arkansas, he's going to be the reason why they upset somebody big down the stretch. I'm telling you.
Yeah. All right, one more time, same order. Disappointment of the week. I'm going to have a team and then an honorable mention for a player. Disappointment, I'm actually giving it to a winner this time. SMU, they won the game. It was absolutely embarrassing to watch. You cannot. I mean, even Rhett Lashley after the game was like, "We shouldn't have won that game. We didn't deserve to win." You can't turn the ball six times and expect to win. I feel bad for Duke because they forced 6 turnovers and still didn't have enough talent to win the game. They weren't expected to win the game, so they're not my disappointment, but that has to be tough for them as well. Honorable mention is going to go to a player, Kyle McCord, who I've been hyping up this entire year. So shame on me for thinking he would remain talented. 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, and a self sack to end the ball game. Honorable mention goes to Kyle McCord.
One word, Syracuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair.
So
Mine-
bad, dude.
If you get suspended by me, it has to be you. It's Maryland. If you get suspended in a betting podcast, you deserve to be the disappointment of the week. Honestly, the disappointment of the year. Like, no one's ever heard of a suspension, and it happened to you. So, yeah, it's Maryland.
That's fair. Mine, we're going to go Missouri, obviously, just because they're a horrible football team. Honorable mention, Kentucky, for all the reasons I discussed in my individual plays.
All right. Let's Will, you ready? You're gonna present the we're gonna go playoff predictor. All right, so
Let's do it.
this is basically gonna be baked beans for us. We're gonna go into the playoff predictor and see who's got the best one. I already know who's got
Okay.
the best one, but I'll check y'all's out just to have, just for fun. All right,
I'm
but go
gonna
ahead.
choose one. I don't know whose is who, so whoever's up.
Okay. Oh, that's fancy.
Nice.
I think
Very
this
nice.
is
I know whose that is.
This
That's
is
Cam's.
me.
That's Cam's.
This is
Cam,
me.
yeah.
Go ahead, y'all. I know it's perfect, but do you see
No.
any
Let me look quick.
any fallacies, any faults in this?
I don't see Indiana.
Facts.
Okay.
So you got Iowa
Um,
State winning the Big 12 too.
I do have Iowa State
Okay.
winning the Big 12. Um, I like their strength of schedule a little bit more. I think they've got a couple. Brigham Young's got a good win against SMU, and then some other wins that I'm not like. I don't know.
Does
Could
does
go either
Alabama
way.
does Alabama win at Penn State?
Uh,
Is that how we read
I,
this?
yeah, no,
And
I'm pretty sure.
and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
beat
it is.
Clemson at Clemson?
The
This one's not at
quarterfinals
Clemson.
not at Clemson.
Yeah, it'd be
The
a bowl
fi
game.
It's gonna be, yeah, whatever the bowl is for that. Yeah, it's neutral site. If it was at Clemson, my answer would
Hmm.
not be the same.
It's
Um,
it's a home game for the higher seed in the first round, but then
yep,
quarterfinals it starts being neutral site.
that's correct. But yeah, I think we'll see. It's subject to change with Penn State. I haven't seen the offense to me is not dynamic enough, and I think Alabama can score their way to that win. And they also, when playoff time comes, they tend to be a very good football team, and I'm going to be pretty high on Alabama if they get in. You notice they're the 12
Yeah.
seed, but if they get in, it's kind of like the anything can happen. You just got to get in.
I'll spend some more time on them for you in a little bit.
Appreciate that. Anything else?
Um, no, I like a lot of. I think Miami at 7, so that means you got Clemson winning.
Indiana
Mississippi.
disrespect.
I, I, uh, they're going to lose a game before the end of the year, and resume is concerning to me. I'm just concerned about resume. If they win out, obviously it's like indisputable to me, but they're going to lose a game, and I think I think that's gonna do them in. Just the other team's strength of schedule is a little bit better.
Anything
But
else?
yeah,
All
no, but
good.
I mean,
Going ahead.
with Clemson, if Miami won the ACC title, I would be worried about Clemson getting in with 2 losses, and I need Clemson in, so I'm just gonna have Clemson winning the ACC title. That way, they
Yeah.
both get in.
Fair.
All right, let's see. Who do I pick next? The same one.
Okay, that looks like
That is the same
that
one.
That's
looks
the same
that
one.
looks familiar. That
Bruh.
looks familiar.
Did they switch order on me? All right. Now, here we go. This one. This one's
This is a
mine.
new one. That's Will as they got the Oregon winning.
Yep.
Which that game I can see that I can see it going either way.
Mhm.
I think those at the end of the day, those are going to be the two best teams. All right, but I'm
Indiana
going to go
disrespect is
through.
not allowed. Indiana respect only here. And
I'll
What's the difference?
I'll disrespect them in a minute.
What's the difference between
whoa.
them? Like
So
they're going to lose in the first round
so
anyways.
one thing I've noticed, and we've only seen the first two, and who knows, I might have thought the same thing, but Texas has got a significant drop off on both y'all so far.
And that's yeah, I feel I said it when we're talking about the Vandy game. Like I just feel like they've kind of been exposed the last couple weeks. I think they are still very talented,
Bad
but
strength of
just in
schedule.
terms of winning football games, and then that strength of schedule is going to get them if they. I really think they needed a blowout loss for me to, or a blowout win
So
over Vandy for me to like continue believing in them.
I got it pulled up. Let me
Wait,
find it.
why am I? I'm seeing Miami plays Oregon and Miami plays Georgia both in the
Oh
semifinal.
yeah, you have Miami on there twice.
I do? What is it
Mm-hmm.
doing that for?
Is that meant to be Clemson versus Georgia in the semifinal?
No, it's meant to be Penn State is playing Boise, and Boise.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think at least. Let me.
So
So it should be Penn State versus Ohio State,
yeah.
and then
So
you
No,
have Penn
it should
State
be Penn
against.
State. Penn State versus
it's Boise
Boise,
State.
then Penn State versus Iowa State, and Penn State
Yeah.
beats. Why is it doing that?
So real quick while he does that, Cam, going back to Texas, they're 45th in terms of strength of schedule.
45th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, look, and then the problem is, look at the other teams in the SEC and what their strength of schedule is.
Oh,
You know,
well,
especially
we'll
the
we'll
teams in
get
the
to
upper
it.
echelon. I mean, you're looking at like a lot of them are going to be in the top 10 strength of schedule.
Does that look better? Yeah, there. Penn State was
Yes.
supposed to be over here.
There
Yeah.
we
Yep,
go.
Yeah,
that's
they're
correct.
enlarged.
That's correct.
Don't know
All
why I
right,
did
I
that.
mean, it's all good. You're a first timer. We're gonna have some kinks to work out. So you got Penn State making some noise
Oh
in
yeah,
this thing.
I think Drew Aller's the truth.
I'm with you on that.
I think
Beating
he's
Clemson at a neutral site.
yeah. I think I believe in Clemson, but I mean also I believe in Penn State. I think that'll be a really good game. Honestly, I think every single game in the quarterfinals is a really good game. I think Texas actually plays Georgia decently well. I think Georgia still probably like wins this game by like 10, but like Miami Iowa State's a good game. Ohio State Oregon was already a good game before. Penn State Clemson, that's a really good game, and then
I
and
like that you
Indy.
have Texas and Texas A&M going like almost not quite back to back against each other, but I mean
I
it's
think
like
it's a
the
real
last week of the
possibility.
season.
Yeah.
Do you have so thinking about this, do you have Texas A&M winning the last game of the season versus Texas?
No, I have Texas winning that game and then losing to Georgia um in the SEC championship
That
and
explain. Okay, so
it
yeah,
being a
that's why
close game. So that's why
they're your
Texas is above
highest.
A&M. Yeah.
Yep, I got it. That makes sense. So then,
That'd
But
be a
Bama's
I
fun.
mean,
left out.
That'd be a fun playoff to watch.
Yes,
so
it would.
Bama's out,
No Tennessee,
Tennessee's
no
out. You only have
no Notre
three
Dame.
SEC teams.
I legit think like it's shaping up for the Pac-12 to get two in because two teams are only have one loss and one team's undefeated. So, and then the Big Ten, I'm a sucker for them, but also I think Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State are just genuinely top 12 teams. And
They
then
are.
Indiana's the best team in the country. So, and then three
But you have them
teams.
losing in the first round.
Penn State is the best team in the country.
I'm
Indiana's
saying, you're
second.
such a believer. Put your money where your mouth is. Why don't you have these boys in the semifinals where they belong, huh?
I mean, I want to, and don't tempt me with a good time. If we do this in 2 weeks and Indiana's already beaten Ohio State, we might
I
just
was about
have
to
them.
say they got a big game coming up. If they do
We
something there,
they
my stance might change.
they might I might just have them where Oregon is, and if they don't, if they end up running the table and beating Ohio State, something like that, because I mean, Kurt Signetti has them boys playing.
The rest of this, I like.
That
I f
Boise Miami game would be fun.
you know what's so funny is Miami's had such a favorable schedule all throughout this year, and then they get into the college playoff year bracket, and they have a favorable schedule again.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You know, it's like Boise State, and then Iowa State is their top four seed that they got to play. And then I mean, yeah, they would get exposed. They haven't played a team even close to Oregon's
No.
caliber. Even if they play Clemson for the ACC title, that's still not. Oregon, I think, is the first or second best team in the nation. So I agree. Oregon would win that matchup.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
All right,
That's
let's go
actually
to
that's actually pretty good.
let's see who can we go to here.
Just don't go to the same one again.
Depends how much controversy you want to talk about.
Yeah, we'll go
Yeah, I
to
want to see
this
some
one.
nonsense.
This is Nate's.
Okay,
Start asking.
you have. Oh, that is a heck of a rise from Alabama.
Yeah.
Start asking.
Alabama and Georgia in the title game.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Why? Okay, here's my first one.
Okay.
Why is Alabama the 5 seed?
Right.
Okay. So I think I told y'all earlier, right? So the way that they, quote unquote, said that these playoffs are going to be ranked is more on strength of schedule than it ever has been in the past. Alabama
Okay.
right now has the fifth ranks, and we're going off. Dude, it's tough to look at the future because there's gonna be a lot of upsets happen. Like this is just what I felt today. Like this could change, but Bama, even with 2 losses, if they win out, will have the 5th-ranked record in the country. Penn State, if I'm not mistaken, is back down in the 40s. So I think Bama at 2 losses still should be ranked above that 9 spot where Penn State is. And when it comes down to it, like I told you earlier, money matters when it comes to college football. You can get a Penn State home game, or who would it be? A Penn State or Ohio State home game?
That'd be Ohio State home
Yeah,
game.
Ohio State
State.
home game again versus Penn State, and then you get Bama at home. If you flip that different ways, you're looking at, I guess you can say, different locations for different games. But I think it's solely based off strength of record or strength of schedule. Both of them actually is why I did that. Another one too is, or go ahead and keep asking. I think Bama beats Boise State. If we're just looking at
Obviously.
this right here, I think Bama beats BYU. And the only reason I put Bama over Oregon is because Kalen DeBoer has never lost to Dan Lanning, to be honest with you. And then Bama loses to Georgia because it's going to be hard to beat them twice. Very simple. The 5 seed's debatable itself, but I think Ohio State could potentially have a 2-loss season. Penn State plays Ohio State this week. We don't know what's going to happen there. And then Penn State also plays Washington, which has shown they can hang in some games. So, like y'all said earlier, Penn State's offense is still a little questionable. So, this is, I mean, there's a lot of time to sort this out, but
So
And hold on, you gave Alabama just a cupcake lane. Let's-
and
Give
I
them a
don't.
5
so
seed.
keep asking,
This bracket doesn't like Alabama has 2 losses, and then in this you would have them, meaning they would lose to Georgia in the SEC championship, but still be the 5 seed.
I think he has A&M losing in the SEC championship.
Yeah,
in
he
this
doesn't
one.
have them in the
So
That's why A&M's
you would
there.
have A&M losing and then Alabama jumping them.
So, like I
Because that's
assuming,
assuming
so like I said, I'm going solely based off what they have said about the playoff, how it's going to be set up. Because when you look at it, if Bama beat Georgia, if Georgia beats A&M then has a 24th ranked schedule compared to Bama's
Okay.
5th.
but they
Okay,
still have a
so
better
you-
record.
No, they'll
Well,
have 2
I think-
losses.
I was about to say, so based off this, you have A&M,
Bama's
Texas,
the
and
highest ranked
Bama,
2-loss
all with
team.
2. They all have 2 losses, right? All 3 of them
You
would
said
have 2
who again?
losses.
Bama, A&M, and who?
A&M, Texas, and Bama all have 2
And then
losses based off
Texas,
this.
I think A&M beats Texas, but I think solely because Texas's strength of schedule is like what I say 45. Bama beat Georgia,
Okay.
and then Georgia just
I-
smashed Texas.
It does, in terms of that, it does check out. I don't know if I put them at 5.
I think
I
the
would-
biggest argument is Penn State, Bama.
That's what I was going to say. I can see you jumping A&M and Texas based off of that
Yes.
because in theory they all have the same amount of losses. But
Those-
I'm not sure if I
It'd be-
totally agree with 5. I would
No.
think 6 or 7.
Ohio
I think
State and
Notre Dame
Penn
or Penn
State
State,
just have
yeah.
they have a lot of games like they play each other.
And you're assuming Notre Dame wins out, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. And at the end of the day, like they did lose to Northern Illinois, but
Yeah, if they win out, I can see them at 6.
Yeah.
I can see that if they win out because there's going to be a win against Army and a win against USC on the road are going to be okay wins. So I can
Yeah.
see it. A
And then-
one-loss team.
USC
I'm not saying Ohio State has a chance
Road
to
games
even
are hard.
lose this game, but Ohio State still plays Michigan too, and we know how those games sometimes go. Like I'm not saying there's a chance in hell, but
Okay, I was not on the same page at first, but I think your logic is actually kind of sound here.
The logic is there, just is the brain there? Is the question.
no, I mean at the end of the
I
day, like
just
I'm
think
also
the SEC rankings will be different than that.
it.
If they're all 2 losses, I don't know.
I think
They're
Bama
all-
will be the highest
Yeah,
2
but Bama
seed,
has bad losses.
but I think they're going to be the highest 2 seed because of the win at Georgia, or not at Georgia, against Georgia.
The other 2 teams did not or would not, in theory, would not have beaten Georgia
Yeah, 'cause
if Texas A&M
lost, and
plays.
then
Yeah,
A&M would play them in the championship.
yeah. So they
Yeah,
both would have
which-
lost to Georgia. Bama's the only one that beat them. So I can kind of see that too.
The 5 spot I understand is very controversial, but I put Penn State, Ohio State at 8 and 9 because they do got a few tough games left. If Bama beats LSU, I think there's a good chance they win out.
2-loss Clemson team at 11. That would
I
make
got them
sense. I'd be
sneaking
worried about
in.
them.
I got them
I'd be
sneaking
worried about
in.
them not getting in.
So because remember what I told you earlier, I still think there's a lot of undefeated, one loss, whatever teams that will get left out due to these other teams coming in, like Clemson.
Like
I
like
think
who will?
Wait, say that again.
so.
Like who?
I actually got it pulled up on the
Indiana.
screen.
Bull
Indiana.
crap.
Indiana has the I think 105th strength of schedule.
I mean, we'll
Damn.
see when they
If
go.
they lose to Ohio State, it's over for them.
No, because what if
Yes.
they lose by 1?
They're still done. Like they're not getting in the playoff.
Then you have a
Like, they're
one-loss team over, say, like a Texas.
But who has Indiana
you have a
beat?
one-loss you have a one-loss team
Behind like
to
a Texas who wouldn't be in the SEC championship on your bracket
But
and
who
would have
has
a
Indiana
loss to
beat?
Texas A&M.
Who
No,
has
I mean-
Indiana beat if they lose to Ohio State?
I mean,
But they still have one loss.
That doesn't
I
matter.
mean, we're-
Solely based off
who
what
is
they're
Texas
saying
team?
this year.
But
Who's
you're
Texas
saying
team?
you could go undefeated and not get in if your strength of schedule sucks.
I think there's like a potential outside chance, like an AAC team, Big 12, maybe one of them outsider teams that are like, how do they do it? But
For
I mean,
me, with Indiana, the manner in which they lose, I think, is going to be important to them. If they make it to the Big Ten title game and lose that, I still think they get in. If they lose
that's
before
different.
then and don't play for the title, I don't know if they get in.
That's different if they go to Big Ten title.
I
But
mean,
if
yeah, I just think the only reason people aren't considering them is because it's Indiana. Like
Who-
name value does have something to do with it. Like Vandy was 5-2 and beat Alabama, and they were ranked 25. If Florida, say that, is 5-2, beats Alabama, and they're numbered 15, lowest.
So who gets in? And I got an argument if depending on how this goes, a one-loss Notre Dame or a one-loss Indiana.
Indiana.
Notre Dame beat
I-
Texas A&M to start off the year.
Yeah,
They will
I
have
think
these.
give it to
Notre Dame will have the strongest win.
Notre Dame has the worst loss.
I get that, but Notre Dame's schedule is tougher.
But see, I think you're
it?
too high right now on Alabama's strength of schedule. Are you looking at preseason strength of schedule?
No, I'm
'Cause
not. I'm not too high. I'm looking at it like updated this week. Bama's
It's not
at
very
5th.
good.
Strength of schedule.
They
Bama's
played
5th.
South Carolina, lost to Vandy. They beat Georgia, but they played unranked Wisconsin, South Florida, Western Kentucky.
Wisconsin's playing really good football right now, though.
We've
And
seen
then- and then
bad
they- playing
losses.
good
And then they go on to play Mercer, Oklahoma, and a bad Auburn team.
We've
I-
seen bad losses keep teams.
I
out
can't
of
tell you, but I'm
playoff.
looking at the updated right now. Bama's 5th. Georgia's 1. Oklahoma sucks, but they got the number 2. It's Georgia, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, UCLA, Bama, then South Carolina.
We've seen bad losses keep teams out of the playoff. Case in point was it like 4 or 5 years ago of Ohio State. I think they went 11-1 and lost, but their one loss was to unranked Purdue.
But
We've seen bad losses keep teams out of the playoff strictly for that loss.
what's helping Bama now though is Vandy. Like they're actually like that. Is that even a really terrible loss anymore?
I kind of with you, Nate. I don't
mean,
think
I'm
Vandy is
I'm not talking about
that
Bama.
bad of a loss.
No,
I'm not
just
talking about
I'm
Bama.
just in
I'm
general.
talking
Just in
about Notre
general.
Yeah, Bama's two losses are to. Oh wait, no, they have 2 losses. Are to
Tennessee's number 7 in the
ranked- are
country
to
right now.
ranked teams. I think Vandy is genuinely a top 25 team. I'm mainly talking about Notre Dame because their loss is a horrible loss.
I agree because they are like what a 4-loss team now, Northern Illinois.
Something like that.
So, and that's the thing it comes down to is say if Indiana loses to Ohio State, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Okay, so now you got to look. Indiana did not beat a ranked team. Notre Dame beat Texas A&M. That's what they got to look at and sort out.
It's almost a wash.
See,
Like
but
it
see,
almost like
You've also seen like Indiana like go into games and just straight up dominate. Nebraska's not a
blowing
horrible
out like
team.
Nebraska. I was about to
Yes.
say blowing out
Nebraska's not a
Nebraska.
horrible team. They beat who'd they play this past week? Washington without their quarterback and still winning by 14.
So, if Indiana beats Ohio State, this conversation's done.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. But also,
obviously.
Notre Dame is blowing out teams as well. They're not
Yes.
winning close games. They are blowing teams out week
I-
after week.
I
I've been
strictly
watching
think
it. A lot of them are my
it's-
ACC guys.
It's the bad loss. It's basically kryptonite in college football. Like if you have a loss to a bad Power 5 or a Group of 4 team, it's like you have a giant mountain to climb, and it's almost impossible for Notre Dame to climb that mountain because they're not in a conference.
Yeah.
See,
Which
and I made it easy on myself because I have them losing to USC at the end of the year anyway, so they have 2 losses and they
Yeah.
have no hope.
Which, dude, if we do this again next week, half of this will be different. I mean, that's just how it
yeah.
goes. Like, because either Penn State's going to have a loss and they might do it. I mean, or Ohio State might be a 2-loss team. You know, and then they could be flirting with their third against Michigan. Whatever happens there.
I mean, shoot,
But-
Georgia might lose to Florida.
I'm just saying, like, we don't know what's going to
Okay.
happen in the next 7 days.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
It is. I mean, like, in reality, it is. Like,
I think
All-
Bama being 5 is a little bit of a stretch.
the logic makes sense.
Yes, to me it's a stretch, but not in the way that Brandon sees it. I see where your head is at, but I think there's 1-loss teams that would probably be at 5
Yeah.
So-
over
I
Bama.
think there's a
if
little
you
bit
look
of-
at
where
this-
my
so if
difference
you
is.
look at this, the only 1-loss teams is what I said earlier is the ones I was like kind of going back and forward with. The only 1-loss teams on here that would be ahead of Alabama is Ohio State or Penn State, and one of them is
Yep.
going to have either 2 losses or they're both going to have 1 loss.
So I mean, I would put like Penn State or whoever it is, I would put them at 5 and then Bama at 6.
That's why I said after this
Notre
weekend,
Dame,
it'll all
yeah.
change.
But I think you're close. I mean, I see where your logic is for sure.
And also, I'll
Uh,
just say this too, like Cam said earlier, Bama's picking it up a little bit now. Playoffs, I'd bet on them. I mean,
Just get in.
their defense
get in.
sucked the first 5 weeks or whatever, 6 weeks. They got 5 picks in their last 2 games.
Yeah, we didn't even get into like semifinals,
Wow.
national championship. I'm not sure if I see
I mean, the picks aren't that
Alabama
crazy
winning that
besides
neutral
Bama,
site
yeah.
against
The
Oregon.
picks aren't that crazy besides Bama to me. And I mean, I can see Bama beating BYU. Do I see them beating Oregon? No. But BYU, I don't think it's a crazy pick.
Oregon was solely based off DeBoer's record against Dan Lanning.
I would say more so solely based off you're an Alabama fan,
That too.
which is
Well,
fair.
No,
It's fair.
no, like legit though. He has never lost to Dan Lanning. So I'm just like I said, I told Cam it's like I really hope Bama wins, but I'm picking Georgia. Like, you know.
Yeah, he does have Georgia as the national champion. I bet that hurt him to put.
No, like I'm just I feel like Bama's got a better chance of beating Oregon than Georgia. Again, you know, like that's in the same season.
Yeah, I can see that. They already did it.
Yeah.
So,
We
all right,
can
let's
go
do
over to
Brandon's.
Brandon's. Side note, while we're switching, the Dodgers have officially won the World Series.
Oh my God.
Congratulations, Los Angeles.
Screw them Yankees.
Facts.
Yeah, get them bums out of here.
Let's see here.
Top 3
Atlanta
highest
Braves
payroll.
2025.
They're both in the top 3 highest payroll. So money
I think this is
gets you in.
Brandon's right here. Yep.
Here we go.
All
My
right.
fellow Indiana brethren.
Who's
they're
that in the
they're it.
bottom right? Yeah, get that thing out of here.
Indiana is the
Awesome.
truth.
Facts.
And you have them hold the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Beating Ohio State?
Yep, because it'd be at Indiana.
So, do you have Penn State
That-
beating
they're
Ohio
the eight,
State?
yeah.
Do I have what?
Well, I guess we'll get into that in a little bit, but according to this, you got Penn State beating Ohio State.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
You got a 2-loss
It looked
Ohio
like
State
he's
team
got
here.
he's got Penn State beating Ohio State, but then I think Penn State, or no, it'd be Indiana goes to the Big Ten championship and loses to Oregon
Yep.
and falls behind
Yep.
Penn State.
So,
Yep.
do you have Indiana as a 1-loss? So, who wins the Indiana Ohio State game?
Indiana
Indiana.
Indiana wins that.
and beats them again. Yeah,
Yeah.
That
this is what we'd like to see here.
Exactly.
that is bold. That is. So you have Indiana beating Ohio State 2 times in the same season.
Yeah.
Hey, Indiana blew out Nebraska, and guess what happened to Ohio State and Nebraska this past week?
Exactly.
Dude, the Ryan Day effect
Yeah.
is
Nebraska
real.
should have won.
That's, I guess.
So let's see. And you got A&M beating Texas regular season.
I'm at 5.
Yep.
I think we all of us except Nate had an Oregon Georgia national championship.
I think
Yep.
so. I mean, they are the two
Uh,
best teams up to this
Well,
point.
It's the
I
two
would
best
say.
teams.
honestly,
Two best teams.
there's a chance I would have been close, but I just had a couple of my teams flipped in the rankings.
So you don't have Alabama in this.
No, because I personally think they probably lose to LSU at LSU.
Oof.
I think that is a trouble game for them.
I'll give y'all
Do
some.
you have Notre
Wait till
Dame
the
winning
stats
out?
on that one.
What?
Brandon, do you have Notre Dame winning out?
I do. I have them. I mean, they have a pretty easy schedule, I think, coming up, other than USC. And I just don't know if USC is. I don't know. That's going to be a close game. I think Notre Dame's getting better as the season goes on. I think.
I agree with that 100%.
But I will say there is to be said, I don't think their games before that prepare them for that game. So we'll see. I still have them winning out for sure. But I mean, I still think Penn State's the better team. So if they lose first round,
So one thing I've noticed is if you think LSU is going to beat Bama, nobody has LSU in this.
They have 3 losses, don't they?
They have 3
Yeah.
losses.
Yeah.
They have 2.
They have 2.
They will have 3. Hold on. Who's
If
scheduled?
LSU beats Bama, they could win out.
I thought
I
they
mean,
had one
possible.
other. And I mean, and that's another
Yeah.
part of this where it's like there's other teams we're missing.
I
Like
think the
LSU
winner
is still very much a contender in
the
this.
winner of Bama LSU will be in the playoff. They will win out
I mean,
unless LSU.
in this situation, you can't really put them in because who are you going to put them in over?
right?
Ohio State, no.
No.
Indiana, who just went to the Big Ten championship, no.
Yes.
11-1
Right.
Notre Dame, no. Penn State, no. I mean, you could argue Texas. That's really it.
Dude,
If-
Texas
or-
with that strength of schedule might screw around and get dropped.
I mean, honestly, let's see. What do we? I guess we have Texas A&M. We have Texas A&M beating Texas in this one. So, I mean, it could really be. It'd probably be between Texas and LSU and who they want. Is if Indiana goes to the Big Ten championship, they're in no matter what.
Yeah.
Even
I
if they
agree
lose,
with
they're in.
that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
That's kind of my thought on Clemson. Like if that's their next loss, they're in.
Depends on the loss because of their. I mean, it's not a bad loss.
If
to
it's a
Georgia,
close
but
game with
if you lose-
Miami, then they're in.
yeah, it's not a bad loss to Georgia, but losing 34-3 is not great.
Yeah, unfortunately, people remember the first game of the season.
Yeah.
I appreciate the love for the ACC right here. Both moving on. Well, one gets the quarterfinal game, but then you have them beating Penn State, which I like. I think it's actually a good matchup for Miami.
I think it is. I think Miami's. I think they walk the walk and talk the talk this year.
Clemson against Texas
That would be a fun matchup.
that's going to be a really good game.
In Death Valley?
It would be at Clemson, so
I
yeah.
could see Miami making a run to the chip, but also losing in the first round strictly due to matchups. Like I think Penn State's a good matchup for them, but I also think like Ohio State or Notre Dame is not a good matchup for them.
There's certain teams that are not good matchups.
Like Texas A&M is not a good matchup for them,
No.
but
Dude,
Boise is
um,
because they're going to turn it into a
Can I just
shootout.
throw this out there? A Miami Bama game, I don't care if it's postseason, preseason, regular season, would be elite.
That would be fun. That'd be fun. I mean,
I,
Miami Georgia, I think, would be fun for the first 40 minutes,
Yeah. Fair.
and then Georgia would probably pull away at the end because they are the best third quarter team and known to man.
I think Georgia is now playing with some kind of chip on their shoulder. I think after the loss to Alabama, it just felt like, from like a fan perspective and kind of like, I can't say I've been in the locker room, but it just kind of felt like it's like, oh, same old Georgia. They're really hyped up for the beginning of the season. They win some games, and then they lose when the lights get bright. And then I think now it's like, all right, Kirby Smart's got the boys dialed in. I think they all have bought in, like especially when we're healthy on the defense front seven. It's a scary sight to see. So
You want to know what
Yeah.
would really be crazy? A&M beats Texas, and then if Georgia somehow they got a decently tough schedule to end the season. If Georgia slips up and loses another, then you'll have A&M, or no, sorry, Georgia, Texas, Bama, all with 2 losses. And then if
Yeah.
But
A&M loses the SEC championship, they'll have 2 losses. Or you can switch Bama and LSU, whichever one you want. But
Oh,
dude, that'd be
it could still be madness
That-
with
Oh, yeah.
these few weeks
Oh,
remaining.
yeah.
It could
if
still be
Georgia loses
crazy.
another game, the SEC is going to be insane.
Well,
but
like
Georgia
for
also
example,
has the number one strength of schedule that you're very high on.
they do.
No, yeah, I know. No, I'm not saying they're not going to get in. I'm just saying in general, like the seedings of things will be crazy.
Yeah, it'll be whoever
It would-
wins the SEC will be a top 4, and then the rest
I mean,
you don't
it
even
it
know.
actually
Yeah.
be good for Georgia. Like honestly, like at the 2, they don't really do any. They don't really do themselves any favors. They got to play a Clemson team that, like you said, it's hard to beat the same team twice. Then they got to play Miami. Then they go play Oregon. Like, shoot, it'd be a much easier time if they drop down to say 5, and then they got to play Boise
So-
State, and then they got to play BYU. Then
That's
they're in the
Get that extra
semifinal.
week off.
That's what I was saying about when I put Bama at 5 earlier. Like, I don't care who's in that spot, but whoever the number 5 seed is going to have the
Yes.
easiest road.
I mean, I think
was just looking
I
at
kind of
that.
think we're sleeping on BYU and Iowa State. Like
Dude,
Iowa
I think,
State, I think Iowa State's going to win it, and
I think
their
BYU's
defense is something.
I think that's a Navy Notre Dame situation
I do
against
too.
certain teams.
I do too. I agree.
I think the lights will
They
get
gotta-
too bright.
The best team that BYU has beat is like SMU.
Yeah,
Didn't they
the
throttle
best team.
Kansas State?
they did.
Yeah.
SMU is
Right.
better than Kansas
Dude,
State.
imagine BYU coming down to Atlanta, Georgia, neutral site field in Mercedes-Benz. You face a Clemson, Georgia, Bama. I mean,
They ain't ready for all that.
A&M. Like,
I just think we've said the same thing before about like last year's Washington team. A lot of people thought they weren't that great.
I think
and
last year's Washington team destroys this BYU
and,
team.
like,
Like, I
even
know they're
when-
good, but
they went and beat Oregon in the regular season, and still everyone was like, "Yeah, Oregon's going to destroy them in the Pac-12 championship." What do? They win. Then they're like, "Oh, Texas is going to destroy them in the College Football Playoff." What do? Win.
there's my DeBoer Denlighting argument.
Like it's. I think that's what we're kind of like. It's tough to win in the Big 12. I mean,
Do you think BYU beats last year's Washington team?
that Washington?
Okay.
Like, I mean, you got an NFL quarterback there.
Could we
Right.
say last year was a down year compared to this year
For who?
for college football?
I mean, I wouldn't say this. Is last year down year compared to this?
Could we see Michigan making it to last year's Michigan competing in this year's college football playoff?
Yes, I think so because
Mm.
that team was very good, and I think
Dude.
I mean they might not like win it, but I think they're in it and they can make some noise.
Well, let's start with this. Does JJ McCarthy beat Texas week 1?
I don't know. He doesn't have to throw the ball. It's hard
Like,
to know.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, you got all these
Like,
teams that
are we-
came in
are we
from the
talking, like-
Pac-12.
Are we talking Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, or are we talking Sharon Moore, Michigan?
Obviously,
Yeah,
Harbaugh.
that's
Jerome
okay,
Moore,
yeah.
Michigan is
That's-
terrible.
Like,
Yeah.
I think this year Michigan gets in. I mean, they're not going to be as dominant as last year, but I still think they get in.
I think they get in. I think they probably win a game, potentially 2. Even
But
I mean,
I just
think
think
Oregon
with the
But-
transfer portal and all of that, I just think there's so much talent spread out throughout
yeah,
the league.
I will say though, a 6-team playoff last year would have been the best series in the history of college football.
Yeah. I think the top 6 from last year, I feel like is better than the top
'Cause
6
Who
from
the
this year.
first 4 was Michigan,
But I feel like
Washington,
this is
Bama,
deeper,
Texas,
deeper this year.
it would
and
have been
then
Georgia and FSU.
Georgia, FSU, and then where did
FSU
Ohio
would've
State
got-
fall?
FSU would have got blown to pieces.
Well, yeah, because they had their third string quarterback.
Right.
So switch Ohio State and FSU.
But we're talking about
I mean-
like a Georgia team last year that didn't get in because they lost to Alabama in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but like
You can't
They
get
were
too
in-
mad because
they-
the other teams that did get in.
yeah, they kind of like they couldn't get in, like
Right.
because usually there's a champion
But like,
who doesn't deserve to get in. Like the Big 12 may not deserve to get in. The ACC doesn't deserve to get in. This year, there were all teams that deserved to get in.
For sure. For sure. Okay, we've been on that for we got like 40 minutes. So we do need to move on. Anything else on this before we go to the Week 10 preview?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Excellent segment. That was such a good idea.
Oh yeah.
Whoever thought of that, well done. Who did think of that? Yeah, it was Nate. It's always Nate. You always got those good ideas, Nate. All right. You guys ready for Week 10?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's preview it up. Games of the week. Brandon, let's get us started.
We got some ACC madness. When is that game? 8 p.m. on the ACC network. We got Pitt
Nonsense.
at SMU. Why this game is on ACC network is insane. I mean, this is a pretty big game. There's a lot of implications in this. So I mean, you would think they would market it better, especially ACC reps. I guess they're trying to push the ACC network, which nobody's gonna go out of their way to get. But still going
Just
to be a
me.
great game. Still a lot to watch in that game. I know Cam's excited for it for sure. We're going to move on to clean old fashioned hate down south in Jacksonville. We got Florida versus the Georgia Bulldogs. I think this game is always at 3:30 every year. I think this will be obviously Florida's been trending up. They've been playing well the last couple of weeks, and we'll see how Georgia comes out of their bye week and how they respond. And like I said, for most of these SEC teams, it's not about win or lose. There's a lot about how you win now, and with the college football playoff, like we just explained. So we'll see if Georgia makes a statement or if Florida can have an upset. Anything can happen, and it's one of these games. It's like Nate talks about Auburn, Alabama. Anything can happen. Weird stuff happens all the time, but that'll be one I'm most excited for, being the SEC guru. But the biggest game of the week, and it has the most playoff implications on the line, like we just talked about. And I think after this week, it'll be a lot, I wouldn't say easier, but it'll be eye-opening to most of our brackets that we're making and we're predicting. We got Penn State versus Ohio State at the shoe. Michigan fans call it the toilet. But nonetheless, it's Ohio State, prime time, 7:30 home game. Two of the best top teams in the country. I would say easily both top 5 right now, as the season is so far. It'll be interesting. We got a lot on our plate. Even with that, I would say, I'm interested this week, even though the SEC is a little bit of a sleeper, because, I mean, the last few weeks we've had like 2 SEC games be our top games of the week. So, but we got big ACC madness and huge Big Ten play. So,
All right, I'm going to make an executive decision. We're going to do Florida and Georgia first because I want Pitt and SMU to at least have some semblance of a spotlight since they couldn't get on freaking even ESPN2 because we got to put TCU and Baylor on that channel instead, which is just madness again.
that is fair.
It's just it's malarkey is what it is. All right. So we're going to start with Florida and Georgia taking place in Jacksonville. Georgia 16.5 point favorite last
Big
time I
line.
looked. Over under is at 52.5. Brandon, what do you have?
That's a lot of points. 16.5 is a lot of points. The guys in Vegas, they are very good at their job, though. I think the line is right where it's supposed to be. Very tough. So I am
I agree.
actually going to go with an over 52.5. I know it's a lot of points, but the Georgia offense has really been clicking. I think the Florida offense, we could say the same. They've kind of found their identity. I think they're going to score some points early in the game. And I think this is classic Georgia where let's say it's like 14-10 early, and then Georgia has an explosion second half and scores like 30 points second half. So, yeah, we're gonna go over 52.5. Might bite down. We'll see.
All right, so I got a few thoughts. Georgia coming off a bye always helps. Kirby Smart does really good coming out of the bye. Both teams trending up, I would say. I think if this game happened a few weeks ago, it would not be in our games of the week. But Florida has really stepped up the last few weeks, and they're actually fun to watch. They can score the football. They're fun to watch play. Lagway, I think, is going to be a very good football player. So I'm excited to watch him. Uh, Georgia tends to kind of dominate this matchup. I was historically, not every year, obviously. A lot of scores like Georgia 40-ish, Florida 20-ish. I kind of expect it to be somewhere in that area again. Um, Kind of like the same kind of script that you actually outlined, Brandon. So we're pretty much in lockstep here. I think Georgia is going to make a concerted effort to establish the run because that's what they tried to do last time they played. I think they're really trying to get the run game going. And I think that's going to continue to be a focal point for them. That way they don't have to only rely on Beck to throw the ball. I also think, because Georgia's secondary is not my favorite thing in the world, I think Lagway is going to have some time to make some throws. Georgia's got a solid pass rush. Florida actually, surprisingly, has a pretty good offensive line to mitigate that to some extent. I think they get to him a few times, but I think he has time to make some plays downfield. So I think Florida scores. I don't think they score enough to win, but I think Florida is able to score. I am also going to play the over, and I did buy it down half a point to 52.
Fair.
What's odd?
Nate or Will?
What's odd is we didn't congregate at all in this game before. I have the exact same thing. Over 52.5.
All right.
UF
No.
defense sucks. We aren't good. ETN's going to destroy us unless he gets a DUI on the way there.
Possible.
I literally said Florida can put up 17 to 21. If that happens, I feel confident UGA puts up 38, something like that. I got 38-17 written down, which I mean obviously covers too as well. But I think I just like the over a little more because Georgia has been known to keep some teams in the game when they shouldn't, like in the Mississippi State game. So I the spread being 16.5 worries me because that is a large number.
Yep.
But I think 52 is kind of low because even I think it was like 2-3 years ago when we had Emory Jones at quarterback, we still lost 45-7, and that would have been still hitting the over.
I don't think
So
that's going to happen.
I don't think so either. I think oddly enough, our O line has played decent, but in the beginning of the year we were not good at all. It was bad. Like Mertz didn't have any time, but also DJ's a little more mobile, so he can get out of the pocket if he has to. He will also have like 6'6" guys that can run a 4-3 running after him. But yeah, I like the over in this game because I think Florida has shown that they can at least have some explosive plays, which Georgia has been susceptible to this year. And Florida's defense, besides the Tennessee game, has not been able to stop a soul. So
Right, Nate, tell us you have something different so we can catch up to you.
So I do have something different in this game.
Yes.
Yeah, Will's already shaking his head. So
I know what you got.
just a couple things here. We all can sit here and agree Georgia usually starts first halves pretty slow. I think at halftime this could be a tied ball game or a 6-point ball game. Like it's gonna be close at halftime. The one thing I do know is Georgia over the past couple of years has really struggled with real athletic quarterbacks that are good on their feet. I do not think Florida wins this game at all, but I do think they're going to cover the 16.5. I think it's going to take them a full half to adjust the Lagway, and I think they'll be able to keep it just close enough to cover.
I don't mind that. I think, like Brandon said, that 16.5 is like right where it
Yeah.
needs to be. I can easily see Florida doing enough to cover, which is why it kind of scares me.
I mean, even honestly, even if it's like a late game trash touchdown, like
Yeah, it could be garbage time,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, Anything else on this one before we go to my favorite matchup of the day?
Good luck, gentlemen, on Saturday. Please don't be too mean in the group chat. We all know who's gonna win.
No, we'll take
So,
it easy.
Will, I just want you to know if Florida so happened pulls off the miracle of a lifetime, I'm just excited to see what you'd say.
I will leave the group chat.
I've been taking a beating for the past 4 years, so all of it will come out. Ever since Trask left and Pitts left, we've been taking a beating. I
Hey,
will say, you said in history, Georgia dominates. In the last like 20 years, we lead the series pretty handily. So I don't want to hear
I was talking about
hey,
the last 5,
hey.
it.
where I think it's 4 to
Look,
1.
I just want you to know if Billy Napier wins this game, they're gonna give him an extension right after.
I know, but he's not going to. He's
Something to
just
look
not.
forward to.
Because you know what's going to happen? If this game is close, it's going to be 4th and 2. Guess what he's going to run? A read option that gets blown up in the backfield. Or some freaking stupid play that he ran last year where we hike it through the quarterback's legs to the running back. Yeah. Hey, he's going to call some Sunbelt Bowl. Can't say that word on this podcast because we want to keep monetized. But um, yeah. If this game is somehow close, he's gonna lose it for us.
All right, let's go to game of the week number 2, Pitt at SMU. SMU favored -7.5. Over under is placed at 58.5. I normally go first when it comes to ACC games. I would like to hear from everyone else first, because I'm just curious to see like what the third parties have to say, and then I will go last if you guys don't mind.
I got you. This
Cool.
one's a little outside the box. I think SMU is the better team, even if I think his name is Jennings doesn't play.
Kevin Jennings.
Yes, but there is one thing that is true: if he plays or if he doesn't play, the defense is solid. Pitt under 26.5 team total.
Mm, I like that. I like where your head's at there because I see 58.5 and it jumps at me as a lot. If you have Pitt going under their points, I don't see that 58.5 being hit because I think your head's at Pitt might score about 14. That's about it.
I think like 17, 20-ish.
Close. I mean that would mean SMU has to score 35. I think this game's going to be around the 28-14 mark ish. I'm going under in the game. 58.5 under.
So, Pitt also has shown they can play pretty decent defense. Um, I don't think, like y'all said, I don't think this is a high scoring game. I think Eli Holstein, I mean, I think dude could even win this game potentially, but I'm going to take Pitt plus 6.5.
All right. Excellent takes, everyone. Um, this this game has a chance to be like the perfect storm of bad for SMU. Their last 2 games, 10 turnovers, 6 against Duke, 4 against Stanford, and they beat both of those teams. Last week, Pitt played Syracuse and forced 5 turnovers and scored 40, 44, 43. Um, so Pitt is a team and that's how they play is it's they'll give up the big play, but they will take the ball away. That's kind of like their MO. They play a very similar style of defense to Cal. Cal is like second in NCAA football for turnovers, takeaways. Pitt does that very well. Um, Pitt's defense, plus the fact that I think Jennings plays. I think he's banged up, and I worry. He took a helmet straight to the kneecap. So I'm worried about. I think he plays, but I'm worried about mobility. And if they take away his mobility, they already lost their top receiver, R.J. Maryland. He's done for the year. So they've got their top option that's not an option anymore. And they've got a banged up Kevin Jennings coming off 2 very bad performances where one they didn't escape with a win. Stanford's bad, so they were going to beat him anyways, but they escaped with a win against Duke. You fix those things as you go up throughout the season, but you don't normally fix them that next week. Normally you need like a bye week to like really fix problems like that when you have problems taking care of the ball. They don't have the luxury of the bye week, and Pitt has my favorite thing in the world, a 2-day rest advantage. All of these things amount to what could be cataclysmically bad for SMU. Therefore, I have the Pitt plus 7.5 at minus 110 and a small 1 unit play of a Pitt upset at plus 240.
I looked at it, but I didn't go with it.
Also, just so you guys know, I think the under is the exact right play. I think the under is absolutely happening.
Yeah.
SMU's defense does their thing as well.
Yeah.
You look at SMU against Duke, they needed overtime to hit an over of 55. So I don't know if maybe they go to overtime, maybe not. But I think the under is a safe play
Yeah.
there.
I misspoke. I actually have Pitt plus 7.5 too. I don't know why I said 6.5. So
7.5 was the minus 110 line.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
unless
That's
it's
what I got.
changed.
Yeah.
Anything else? I love that. That felt good. Never get to talk about ACC unless it's like my individual plays. Last one. All right, big game. Let's do it. Ohio State at Penn State. Will, I'm going to start with you this time.
Ohio State, almost beat Oregon. I still think they're a solid team. Offense is explosive. They got the guy who apparently has the best spin move of all time, Quinshad Judkins. And Aller's a little banged up as well. Missed second half of last week, and he's kind of a game time decision right now. I do think he plays, and the one thing that Penn State lost this game last year is because Drew Aller was running for his life. Don't know if he's going to be able to do that this week because of him being hurt. So I actually have Ohio State minus 3.5, minus 110. I still think this is a close game. It's going to be like 27-20. Penn State's going to be on a drive to potentially tie the game, and eventually Ohio State's going to get a sack on fourth down, something like that, or they send a blitz and he has to basically just chuck it up and hope, something like that. So yeah, I got Ohio State minus 3.5. I actually wrote down 24-20.
Nice.
Just outside the 3.5.
Yep.
Oh, there's also a
Um,
correction. This game is actually at noon on Saturday.
Noon. Oh, they got the noon.
Yep,
That's
they got the
interesting. I
noon
didn't think
slate.
that would happen. Huh. So I have kind of a similar scenario. A couple weeks ago, we had Texas and Georgia, and when I struggle between two teams because I think they're both like of a similar caliber, I always go back to who needs it more. Like who needs this game more? The answer to this one is Ohio State. Ohio State needs this game. Um, so for that reason, I you take the stats out of it. They both do a lot of things really well. There's not like a matchup one side or the other where it's like, okay, yeah, they have a complete and total advantage here. Like both these teams can play. So I have kind of specific, but I'm only going to play one of these. Ohio State wins, but they win a close game. That 3.5 line and like the 7.5 line, I hate those.
So
Especially if you
much.
go the minus side. And like that's my least favorite thing. So I either always buy it down and do like a -3, or I just go plus 3.5 because I think it's going to be close. So right here I'm going to go Penn State covering at plus 3.5, but I do think Ohio State wins a close football game.
Sweet. So real quick, I just want to state this fact real quick. If Ohio State does not win this game, the only ranked win they have a chance to have on their schedule this year would be against Indiana. Because, like you said, Ohio State needs it more. They lost to
They
Oregon.
need it.
They lost to Oregon. And then now Penn State's ranked. If they lose this one, Ryan Day's 0 for 2 against ranked teams this year. So, just throwing this out there. But, anyways, I'm not going to pick a winner in this. I'm actually going to do the opposite. The over-under is only 45. When Will said 24-20, I was kind of disappointed. But
Right there.
Ooh.
but I think 45 is a pretty low number for this game. I could potentially see it be possibly a 35-20. I mean, some sort like something like that. I just don't know which way because it's such a tight matchup. So I think that's a pretty good line.
I'm also with
So you're
Nate.
gonna go over?
Yeah, I'm going over 45. Yeah,
Okay.
the under's insane. In personal opinion, there the under's insane.
Yeah.
I'm also with Nate on that. I see this being a very similar game to the Penn State USC game. It's back and forth. Might go into a little OT. You guys both have it being a tight ball game. Could see a little overtime. I'm with Nate. I think the line for over/under is low. We're gonna go over. If I had to pick a winner, give me Penn State.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State
State at
and
home is tough.
Nebraska would have only missed this over under by a touchdown.
Facts.
I mean,
Yeah. All right, we're running short on time. So anything else on this one? Because we got to go into toilet bowl, and we cannot miss that.
Nope.
Will, go ahead and introduce the toilet bowl. You got a couple of your Big Ten teams in here, right?
Yeah, they're in the Big Ten. They're not very good. This game is an absolute pick'em. Northwestern loves to play really good one week and really bad the next. So I don't know which one we're gonna get. Purdue almost beat Illinois, who's solid, but then also got absolutely railed by Notre Dame, who's pretty good. Yeah, it's 50-50. Just choose one. Hope you're right. I got Northwestern money line.
Northwestern money line. What do you guys got?
Purdue's home team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got Purdue money line.
I actually think Northwestern is the better football team, so I'm riding with Will, Northwestern money line.
I am not going to pick a team. I've watched Northwestern. Okay, I know how they play. Northwestern is very comfortable with like low scoring, like defensive struggles. And Purdue has scored 17 points. Aside from a game against Indiana State, they have scored 17 points total at home this season. 17 this season at home. So I'm going to go under 46 points in this game between the two. This game is going to be 13-7. I don't know who wins,
They
but
they
it's
scare
13-7.
They scare me with putting up 49 on Illinois one random game.
I can assume because I know how Northwestern likes to play, and I know like the style that they are like comfortable in. And Purdue is just an anemic offense 9 times out of 10. Like I'm not going to bank on them having this random good game when I have seen literally one the entire year.
Both
I
sides
just
of
went
the
with the
ball
home
suck.
team.
Both sides of the ball suck for each team. So,
That part is true.
Yeah.
When in doubt, pick the home team.
All right, we'll go individual plays. Nate, and then Will, and then me, and then Brandon, and then we will outro this thing. We have 8 minutes, fellas.
All right, I'll run through them real quick. I hope y'all tell me this week. So to start
I
off,
probably will at this point.
So to start off with my plus money play of the week is TCU versus Baylor. Both teams averaged 33 points. I think TCU just will have a few more explosive plays, so I'm taking TCU money line at plus money. Arizona State versus Oklahoma State. Arizona State is coming off a bye week. Oklahoma State's defense is very bad, and I do not think their offense can keep up with what Arizona's been doing. So give me Arizona State minus 2.5. Then I'm going to skip on down to Arizona versus UCF. Let me just double check on this. Yeah, Arizona versus UCF. UCF is a dumpster fire right now. I've already told y'all that. So I'm taking Arizona plus 6. Arizona averages 24 per game, and UCF averages around 31 per game. So I think it's going to be a really close matchup.
All right, I'm just going to listen to you and just do all of them.
Okay.
I believe you. Whatever they are, I believe you.
Two bad
We'll
defenses.
We'll go into mine. Say it with me, guys. Who's the best team in the country?
Georgia.
Indiana.
Kennesaw
Indiana,
State.
correct.
Kennesaw State.
Minus 6.5 versus Michigan State. It's a pretty low number for it. That is my lock of the week. Indiana keeps the train rolling, keeps the momentum going into the Ohio State game, where they could pull out a win. Plus money play. I'm shocked that it's plus money. First of all, they probably know something that I don't. So if you want to tell me, tell me. If not, okay. Illinois money line versus Minnesota is plus 125. They were ranked 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
they're facing Minnesota. It is in Minnesota. That's probably why. But I'm taking the better team at plus 125 in any day of the week. Then the next one, it's got push potential, but I also think it's just going to hit in general. Oregon -7 in the first half versus Michigan. This game could be 10-0 at halftime. It could be 14-3. It could be 21-0. I don't see it being within 7 points because Oregon is the number 1 team in the country. Michigan is what we call bad.
Yeah,
So yeah,
scientific term.
Oregon -7 in the first half.
All right, ACC game number 1. We are going to go with Syracuse and Virginia Tech. We're going to go under 54.5. I am actually worried about McCord bouncing back from last week. He actually looked like he might have hurt himself when he sacked himself at the end of that game. Um, the offense tends to move slower anyways, even though they throw the ball 90 times a game. They still there's short chunk passes like 7-8 yards at a time. And they've been struggling in the red zone. Virginia Tech on the other side is going to be without Bashal Tutin, who is their playmaker on offense. That's their best running back. And even if he does play, he's going to be limited. He hurt his knee. So they're going to go to their number 2 guy a lot. They also lost their left tackle, who was pivotal to their run game. All of their runs were weak side, and the second he came out of the game, they didn't have success there anymore. They only scored 21 points against Georgia Tech last week. So I expect long drives and field goals, not touchdowns. Syracuse wins this game 24-18, which is under 54.5. That's at -120. Number 2, this is my plus money play. You said you don't know why yours is plus money. Dude, I do not know why this is plus money. North Carolina at Florida State. North Carolina is barely favored in this game. It's like -2.5, I think, is there, or maybe it's -2. I don't understand that at all. They beat Virginia 41-14. Defense looked the best it's looked all year. I think they're going to play hard for Mac Brown because they know he's done after the end of this year. Florida State hasn't fixed anything. They're still just as bad as they were at the beginning of the year. Give me North Carolina -3 at +105. You could take that at -6, -9, -12, whatever you want to do, and you're still going to be right. Last one, Louisville at Clemson. This is the lock of the week. Clemson's coming off a bye. The offense is going to continue to roll. Louisville gave up 52 to Miami. They probably give up something similar to Clemson. Louisville can also score though, and Clemson has been known to kind of go to depth third and fourth quarter if they've got a decent enough lead, or if this is like a back and forth, they're just going to keep scoring with each other. The line's at 60.5. I bought it down to 60 points, so they're going to go over 60, both team totals, -120. Brandon, for you, SEC.
Yeah, we're going to start off with what I originally thought was my lock of the week, but we changed it. So I still really like this pick. We're going to go Tennessee versus Kentucky. It's actually at Tennessee. The line is 16.5. Bought it down to 16 flat. I just think Kentucky is a very, very bad football team. I think they are done with the season. Everything, it's cooked over there. Quarterbacks are bad. Defense is bad now. And it's at Tennessee. Not a lot going. It's at prime time, so we'll see a big win here from Tennessee for sure. I think if they want to make it to the playoff, they got to win these games in big fashion. I think they know that, and they're going to try to do that as well. So Tennessee -16 for the first one. Plus money play of the week, because my lock of the week is actually insane to me. But we are actually going to keep riding with the Vandy boys for plus money at Auburn this week. I mean, this is just game after game that this team, they have a chance to kind of prove themselves and solidify themselves as a ranked team. I think they're fighting for that very, very hard. And this Auburn team, I don't think is very good. I know they had a big win last week, but if Vanderbilt keeps playing how they are, I think they can beat a lot of teams in NCAA. So we got Vanderbilt at +225. All they got to do is win the game. Easy as that.
That's what it is? I love that.
Yeah.
I would take that all day. Yeah, I love that.
And then for my lock of the week, which I think is even more surprising because I was looking at the numbers earlier before the podcast, this Texas A&M team plays South Carolina. Now, given it's at South Carolina, but I was going to go with the spread. The spread's at 2. Texas A&M -2. So they think, I don't know if they know something we don't, and I look at the money line, it's only Texas A&M -125. So, I mean, we're almost at even for a team who's 7-1, proven to be a really, really good team, up against a South Carolina team who's 4-3. They have a good defense, so does Texas A&M. but I think this Texas A&M offense is way more productive than anything South Carolina could even imagine. I don't think Sellers is good. His backup's not good. I don't think they have a lot of weapons on the offensive side. I see this being like a 42-20 game. Texas A&M wins. So I think two. I don't see this being, nobody's going to win this game by 1 point. So I think two, if you want the extra small little value at -110, is a smarter play. But if you want the safer play at -125, you're not losing a ton of value. Texas A&M wins this game for sure.
Yep.
I
Let's take the
think
win.
I think if Tennessee doesn't cover against Kentucky, a suspension should be in order for
Oh,
Kentucky.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Kentucky's like on the no bet list for sure if they sell this pick again for me. I think this would be third week in a row.
All right, Brandon, go ahead and tell the people to do the things that they need to do.
Yeah, you guys already know what I'm going to say. If you're new here, I know, every YouTube video you watch nowadays, you get to like, comment, subscribe, all that bullcrap. But I just want you to do a solid for the fellas over here at Hold the Line Sports Betting Podcast. Give us some engagement. Hit us with the subscription. Do all that good stuff that all these other YouTubers tell you to do. We're out here working hard, putting in the grind, so you don't have to. You know the saying. Give us that subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications when we drop an episode, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, whatever it is. And also, we're trying to build up our other pages too, as far as the NFL picks. Baseball season just ended, but in a couple months we'll probably get that going as well. And the season starts getting closer and closer. We might be doing some basketball picks in the meantime. So just make sure you hit the channel with ring the bell so you know when we're dropping stuff. And like I always say, if you're listening on like Amazon Music or Amazon Prime, whatever it is, try to get the Amazon's Prime so they don't throw in those ads in there for you. I know nobody likes listening to ads. Hopefully, we can start doing some ad reads here soon because somebody reaches out and sees that we're putting in the grind and we can be a marketable channel. But that all starts with you guys, so make sure you like, subscribe, help us out with some engagement, follow the Instagram, all that stuff.
Well done. All right, that's going to do it, fellas. Excited to see how the playoff predictions look after this weekend and if any adjustments need to be made. We'll kind of make that like a living document. That'll be fun. Should be some good games coming up. Me and Will are going to be back on Friday for NFL picks. Brandon, are you going to be able to join us, or do you want to wait until next week?
Probably next week. But I was gonna
Okay,
say
so just be
for our like committee hats that we put on and our predictions, Will, you need to save the pictures we have right now, and then like
yeah,
each
Oh, I
week
already got
we'll
screenshots.
yeah, perfect. So then we can see
good.
how they move throughout each week.
Yep. All
Yep.
right, perfect. All right, so me and Will back on Friday. As for college football, we will see you guys back next Wednesday, kind of same time, same place. That seems to be the day that we've settled on. So look for a early morning drop from us next Wednesday for college football. We will see you guys next time. Appreciate y'all.
See it.